I took my blankets and folded it up and made it a little bit wider. I'm gonna place it just a little distance, maybe a little bit more than a hand's width from the wall. And then we'll start and legs up the wall. So kind of wiggle your way, thumb on the blanket, lean back. There's no graceful way to do it. You'll swing the legs up as the spine comes to the ground. And the blanket's there just to give you a little bit of lift and a little bit of support underneath the hips. So does the bum have to hit the wall? No, I'm actually purposely not putting my bum against the wall. Okay. There is no graceful way to do it. You just wiggle your way in. You can kind of snuggle in. Some people like to come down first and then lift the hips and put the blanket underneath. And the blanket's optional. I just find it softer on the hamstrings. So welcome to Yin Yoga. I'm Catherine. And I'd like to just start here, just resting. Let the arms be comfortable. They could come out past the head. They could rest on the belly. They could rest on the sides of the body. You can bend a little bit through the knees if the hamstrings feel tight. Take these first couple of moments just to notice your breath. Feel your breath coming in and out. Notice if the breath is a challenge or if you have ease. Be intentional with the breath. Be aware of each inhale. Be aware of each exhale. Perhaps even notice pauses in breath. If it's comfortable, close the eyes. I sometimes find that when my eyes are closed, I'm able to draw within a little bit smoother, a little bit easier to notice that breath and to not be distracted. If you find that in your body, if you find that closing the eyes draws you into this present moment, you're welcome to practice the whole class with eyes closed. Take a few more rounds of breath right here. Just noticing that intentional breath, the expansion of the lungs, the feeling as the body breathes out. Put a big bend in the knees and start to slide the heels down toward the floor. Widen the knees. We're coming into a little squat position here. Toes can be out to the edges or they can be up to this roof, your choice. I always like to take my hands and rest them against my thighs. In the yin practice, we follow 3 tenets. And the first one is to just come to your edge. It's not too hard. It's not too easy. It's not your fullest expression. It's not you holding back. It's this space in between. Bernie Clark calls it the Goldilocks shape. It's a shape that you feel the inner groin starting to stretch. You notice the flexing of the feet. And then you choose, you resolve again and again to find stillness. And that's kind of the hard part. That's the challenge. You might notice that the body shifts and wiggles. That's okay. It's to be expected. But we're choosing to come again and again into stillness. When the body becomes still, the mind starts to speed up. So if you notice the thoughts beginning to race, that's normal. I like to pay attention to the breath. It's like when kids are young, in the 3s and the 4s, and they want something, and that's all that they're consumed with. And then we redirect them. We show them something else. And then that becomes the thing that it wants. And I think of the mind like a young child. And the thoughts as that thing that consumes us, that takes over us. And when we find stillness and we redirect the thoughts to the breath flowing in and the breath flowing out, that's that redirection of a young child. That training the mind where you want it to go. And it's a practice. So know that you might lose track, you might start thinking about the to-do list or today's events or an upcoming trip. For this class, for this time we have together, let that go. Keep returning again and again to the inhale and the exhale. So in the yin practice, 3 tenets. You come into the just right shape. You choose stillness. The 3rd tenet is to hold the time. It's when the magic happens. That's when the body starts to realize things, becomes heavy, it softens, it gives in to the gravity. And that's where we affect the bones and the joints and tendons and the connective tissue. Softening the large muscles, noticing, feeling. We'll linger here for about 5 more rounds of breath. Recognizing that we all breathe at different speeds, at different rates, at different flows. So as your 5th breath leaves the body, slide the hands around to the outside of the knee. Start to walk the knees toward one another, wiggling the feet, maybe even sliding the feet back up the wall if that calls to you. And then notice the sensations in the body after holding the shape. Notice the spaces of the ankles, of the knees, of the hips themselves. Notice the inner legs, the outer legs. You might feel a sense of fluidity. You might feel little surges. You might feel a moan or a groan escape from the mouth. Begin to pedal the feet, pointing one, flexing the other, pointing the other, flexing the first, just kind of like you're walking super slowly, noticing how that feels through the legs. And then bend the knees a little bit more, just enough to get the soles of the feet on the wall. I'm gonna have you curl the tailbone up slightly and then curl the tailbone down slightly. So there's almost this rocking sensation at the back of the hips along the blanket. Notice what that does. We are technically in an inversion. Our hips are higher than the heart. So in yoga speak, what we're doing here is shifting the flow of energy from the base of the spine up toward the crown of the head. Eventually hips become still. We'll keep the left leg where it is. Take that right leg and cross the ankle over the left thigh. You can take your right hand and press the thigh away if that feels good, or just rest it, holding the thigh. So in this particular figure 4 variation, I want you to feel a gentle stretch, mostly through the outer right hip, the glutes, maybe even that outer right leg. So if you're feeling it, if you're doing it. If you're feeling it, you are doing it. If you're not feeling it, adjust the left foot. Maybe it slides closer to the left bum, or maybe it slides away. And when you find that sensation in the outer right bum cheek, through the outer right leg, that's where you pause and you hold. You hold the stillness. You hold for time. Notice the way the back of the shoulders press heavy into the mat. The back of the head heavy into the mat. There's an invitation here to take that left arm and reach it up to the sky. And then stretch it to the center of the room, resting the arm on the mat. Lengthened out, fingers past the head. And then sink in, settle in, notice the flow of your breath. We'll begin to follow 5 final rounds of breath. Noticing how the breath moves through the body. As your fifth breath escapes, take the arms out to the side. Maybe they're cactus arms, like the letter U. Maybe you stretch the fingers out like the letter T. We're going to start to heel toe the left foot, taking a little twist here, rolling that outer left leg toward the floor on your left. Now you might get to a point where you're like, oh, it's too tight. You can release the right ankle and just let the knees and the legs come down to the left. Or you can stay in that figure 4 for the twist. When you arrive into the twist, invite the head to roll side to side, slowly, gently. Notice where it feels good in the neck. Pause there. Settle into the stillness, into the holds. Let time wash over you. It's one of those interesting variations. As time passes, the legs might become very heavy and they might start to slide down toward the floor. They might never get to the floor. They might feel really supported if you prop a block underneath them, bringing the floor up to them. So know that as time passes, if you need to adjust, feel free to, and then settle into the stillness. Notice where the thoughts shift, where they go. If you notice thoughts of pain in the body, you come out way before I ever cued. If you notice thoughts of ease and stability, you're always welcome to linger longer in the shape and release as you're ready. But if you're choosing to follow my voice, my timing, we'll trace 5 more rounds of breath here. As that 5th round of breath escapes, maybe you use hands to help roll you back onto your back. Maybe you wiggle feet along the wall. We're returning to legs up the wall, extending. Noticing the effects. Noticing how that right leg feels. Noticing the parts of the body that complain or have that, ooh, yeah, just right feeling. There's got to be a better terminology for that. I hope you understood what I meant. That, oh, yeah, it feels so good, even though it hurts, that type of feeling. And then bring one hand to the belly and one hand to the heart and just notice the breath. Notice if the belly rises as you inhale or if the chest rises as you inhale. Notice if they shift or if they both rise. Having hands on the belly and the heart to invite the nervous system to take a break, to rest. Release the arms once more. They can stay around the belly and the chest. They can open up to cactus arms. We're all going to bend the knee. And invite the tailbone just to lift and to lower. Teeny tiny pelvic tilts supported by the wall. A little bit of movement there for the back of the hips. And then as you're ready, we're returning to figure 4. This time, right leg stays where it is. Left ankle crosses over the right leg. You can hold that bent knee with your hand. You can press it away. You can find a little sway. It's not necessarily how the pose looks, but rather how it feels inside of you. With the yin practice, we're going inward. We're becoming familiar, acclimated to us. All the parts we cover, the parts we hide, the parts we run from. It's this space where we can notice them, celebrate them, recognize that it makes us who we are. Maybe you start to stretch the right arm into the center of the room, resting the hand on the mat, softening through the shoulder and the elbow, but adding a little stretch through the underarm pit. And then we linger. We let time wash over us. You notice if the body fights the stillness, or if it sinks into the depths. Notice the thoughts in the mind. You invite them to slow down too. And beginning to follow 5 slow, luxurious breaths here in the figure 4. Knowing that as that 5th breath escapes, we'll start to move into the supine twist, rolling to the right side any amount. Again, you've got the option to release the figure 4 and just stack the legs, or just stay in that figure 4. You can have knees high from the floor, low to the floor, supported or not. Invite the head to roll side to side a bit. Searching out that comfortable space in the neck. And eventually lingering there. Notice what happens in the hold. Notice without frustration or explanation. As you draw yourself inward, notice sensation. Following 5 more rounds. As that 5th breath escapes, we'll transition a little bit differently. We're going to start to roll all the way over onto the side of the body. Take the top hand and press it down into the ground and lift upright. We'll move our little blanket off of the mats. And then stretch out, belly down onto the mats. You can make a little fist, stack your hands for support like a pillow under the forehead. Sometimes it feels really good to be on the belly and sometimes it doesn't. So just notice your reaction to being on the belly. You could wiggle and shift a little bit so you find a bit more ease. Maybe you widen the legs a little bit. Maybe you rest the cheek rather than the forehead. We'll linger here for a little bit longer. Just breathe. Perhaps observing the flow of the breath. Is it in the belly, in the chest? Do you feel it widening side to side? Maybe you feel the back expand. We often forget that we're three-dimensional creatures. The lungs are three-dimensional, the diaphragm is three-dimensional. We often focus simply on what we see in the mirror, the front side. Being belly down, feeling the feedback from the mouth. They give insight to the way you breathe. And begin to bend the knees and just let the feet sway side to side. You might add some movement through the ankles, maybe a circle or a point and flex. You might wiggle your toes. We're going to take a variation of banana asana. So for the next shape, you'll need a block and a blanket. We'll begin to make our way onto the right side of the body. Grab your block. I like the middle level, but there are 3 heights, low, middle, high. You're not tied to one. The blanket is to offer a little bit of softness over that block. And that double fold mine's a little bit too high. We're going to lay the right rib cage over the block. Some of you might like to catch your head with the right hand. Some of you might like to lower the head down to the bicep. Some of you are going to want to keep your legs bent. Some of you are going to straighten them. Some of you might stack or even stagger. What we want to feel is the blocks against the rib cage and the body becoming heavy over that block. And then we want to feel a bit of softness through the left neck. So wiggle around, figure out what that perfect placement is for you. And then when you find it, settle into a bit of stillness. Let the breath flow through this posture. I'm going to have you imagine with me a little visualization. If you try it and it doesn't make sense, you can always drop it. I'm going to imagine as I inhale the left lungs, the ones on top floating in the air, they inflate. That whole left body is filled with air. And then as I exhale, the left body recedes. I'm just going to keep the awareness on the left side, inhaling, making space through the left side of the body. Exhaling, feeling it heavy toward the floor, toward the block. Inhaling. And exhaling. Now, if that's comfortable, stay with it. If it's not, release it. And follow 5 more rounds of breath. Noticing how the lungs inflate, noticing the pressure of the block. As the 5th breath leaves the body, bring the hands to the floor, kind of support yourself up. We'll stay on the right side, and I'm just going to slide the blanket off the block. And then bring the block up just above the rib cage, almost more into the armpits. Kind of lower down there. I'm going to stay on the forearm. I think that gives me a little bit more support. And we're just going to kind of rock the body forward and back. There's a lot of lymph nodes right here in this particular spot of the body. There's no way for the lymph nodes, the lymph fluid to move unless we actually apply pressure. There's not a way to extract it from the body. So here, just shift around a little bit. Maybe you find that, yeah, that's the right spot, and you linger for a breath. Maybe you stay with the shifting. We'll take a few more little movements here. If you're feeling sensation of the block against the body, you are doing it correctly. And then begin to transition to hands and knees. Let the hands support you. We'll come to tabletop. And take some cats and cows here. Puff the spine up toward the sky, and then let the belly sag and the gaze come forward. And do that a few times, just resetting before we find Banana Asana on the other side. When you're ready to move into the next posture, perhaps you cover your block with the blanket, add a little softness to the block's edges. Maneuver your way onto your left side. Again, I'm going to find the block against the rib cage. Lots of variation for the legs. We want to feel supported and balanced. I want to notice the pressure of the body against the block, but never have it first. As you settle into the fold, as you settle in and let time pass. Come back to that visualization, that imagination. Imagining filling the right side of the body as you inhale. And releasing the breath from the right side. Imagine filling the air, shift around that side of the body. Knowing that you can stay with that visualization, you can let it go. Sometimes having something to visualize keeps the mind focused into this present moment, into this sensation. Begin to follow, slide, around to the in this variation of banana. Anticipating that as your fifth breath escapes, we'll bring our hands down to the floor to support us. Lift up enough just to slide the blanket off of the block. Again, the block's going to come underneath the armpit area. It's going to roll and shift back and forth, knowing that if you find a sticky spot, you just take a couple of breaths. You more around the breath, shifting back and forth. As you're ready, press up, move the block out of the way. We're going to roll onto our back. If you know that you want to take legs up the wall for Shavasana, scoot forward toward the wall. If you know that you want to extend out nice and long on your back, then stay in the center of your mat. We'll start to draw the knees in toward the chest, maybe even a little bit wider than the rib cage. Just invite the body to roll side to side. If you'd like to take a happy baby before you come into stillness, maybe you reach toward the feet. Keep rocking and rolling side to side. Maybe there's a smile in the happy baby. This moment, it's named after that moment when a newborn finds its toes for the first time and realizes they are so much more than just mom. Can't help but smile at that first little space of independence. And then we'll make our way into Shavasana. I'm going to take the blocks and slide one under each leg. I like it kind of closer to the bum. I find that that supports my back. Maybe the blanket goes across the chest or underneath the head for a pillow. Maybe there's another way that you like to rest. Feel free to adjust and shift until you feel nice and steady, and smooth. Let the arms be comfortable. Take a moment before you completely settle down and think about tensing the muscles. Maybe you start with the toes and you squeeze the toes in and you activate the muscles of the legs. Maybe you even squeeze the glutes. And then soften and relax. Never listen to that. Yeah, that's a weird sound. Squeeze again. This time, squeeze the arms, scrunch up the face, and then soften, let it go. That one more time, actively engage the muscles from the head all the way up to the forehead, and then soften and release. Stay in this soft state. Settle in. Settle into the ease, to the stillness. We're going to take a little bit longer in the Shavasana, in this resting state. Know that if the mind speeds up, return to the flow of the breath. Drawing you into this present state, this moment, here, now. Guide awareness to the breath again. Noticing the inhalation. Feeling the rise and fall of the chest. Gradually inviting each inhale to expand. That might be a longer breath or a wider breath, deeper breath. However it manifests is perfect. Add a little wiggle into the fingers and the toes. A circle through the wrist and the ankle. Eventually, place the feet on the floor. If you've got props underneath you, slide them out. Reach the arms up to the ceiling and then stretch the hands back to the center of the room. Reach through the right hand and then the left hand. Or maybe do that again. Right hand reaching. Left hand stretching. And then release the arms. Windshield wiper the knees, shifting them side to side. Knowing that eventually you'll roll over onto your favorite side. Or the side that's calling to you this day. Take the top hand, press it into the ground and lift the body up. We'll meet in any comfortable seat facing any direction. Take the first couple of moments just to snuggle the tailbone into the earth. Lift up through the ribs, maybe roll the shoulders around and down. Take several breaths right there. Noticing the intentionality of the breath, the spaciousness of the breath. How has it shifted or changed since we started class? Perhaps now it's a bit smoother, rough edges and smoothed out. Bring awareness to the hands, stretch the arms out and up. We gaze up toward the thumbs, hide the palms down to the line. You can rest thumbs at the heart or take them back to the lap. Soft tuck of the chin. This gesture of gratitude. Thank yourself first for carving out the time today to care for you. To move inward, begin to understand you.